Okay, and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm really looking forward to. I've been working quite hard on trying to come up with a different type of game. Before we move on to the project we're going to work on throughout the term, I want to go through a few different types of games because so far the games we worked on last year and this year have mainly just been the same sorts of games. So let's go into something different. So when you're in your project, go up to File and press File, New. You're going to go into a new project. When you open up a new project, it's really important that you're going to name it from now on. So we're going to call this one Pong. Now I hope you know what Pong is, but if you don't, you'll soon find out. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to delete our sprite. We don't need our cat in any of these ones today. So Pong is basically a game where you have a ball that flies around the screen and you've got a paddle and you're trying to beat a computer, which sounds a bit confusing, but we're going to slowly go through it and hopefully I'll do a good job of explaining it along the way. So instead of choosing a sprite today, we're going to paint one ourselves. So when we're painting a sprite, we want it to be a ball in the middle. So we're going to go to the shape of a ball and we're going to create ourselves a sort of a ball shape. Now it's really important that you put the ball in the middle. So if you see that target in the middle, we're going to try to line those up. So now we've got our ball. We're going to go back to coding and we're going to code our ball. This ball is way too big. I'm going to change the size of this by making it maybe size 30. Could even be smaller than that. Let's try 25. Good, I'm happy with that. Now our ball's going to move around the screen like crazy throughout the whole thing, so let's get started. When the game starts, I want my ball to move, not 10 steps too quick, let's make it move 7 steps, okay? Now that won't work because it's got to move forever, so make sure you put your forever block in before you do that. Move for 7 steps forever. Now you can see clearly here, the ball does not come back. So we could have the game by bouncing off the walls if we wanted to. Bouncing off the walls, if on edge bounce. But when you go to restart the game, it doesn't work. So there's got to be some coding in which the game always starts as a fair way. So that would be that we're trying to set the ball. So if you go to, there's a directional one which says go to. And what we want to do by putting this thing is we want to say 0, 0 is right in the center of the stage. So 0x and yx means that every time you restart the game and press the green flag, it'll always go back to the middle. See that? Every time you restart the game, it'll start in the same spot. So now we've got a ball that goes to x, 0 and y, 0, and then it forever bounces off the wall and moves 7 steps. Let's stop there. That's my ball coded for now. We now need 2 paddles. Now when I go to paint my paddle, I need a paddle which is more like a rectangle. So I'm going to make myself all the rectangles a bit like this, drag it into the center so it's still like this, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to rename mine player paddle. Now that's because this is going to be my paddle that I play with, and I want to make sure that when I'm doing the coding I know which one I'm doing. So player paddle. Once again, player paddle's massive, so I'm going to go through and make that smaller, make it maybe 50%. Oh yeah, okay, let's make it 50%. Now, a lot of us have trouble because we don't know how, like with our mouse, to keep moving it up and down, but we're going to try and do it so we don't have to do that. So let's go back to our when the flag is clicked. Where do we want it to go? Well, we know that it's going to stay there. We really just need to worry about the X line. We don't want it moving across on we don't want it moving across the X line. We just basically move it on the Y up and down. So what you can do is you can set the Y to a certain position, which means it sets it to -13 all the time, which doesn't really do anything for us. But see these circles where it has -13? The good thing about those circles is you can drag other stuff in there. So in the light blue one, which says sensing, what you can actually find is there's one that says mouse Y, which basically means wherever my mouse is going up and down on the page, up or down, that's where my character is going to go. So when I say set the Y to my mouse, then what you'll see is that when my mouse moves, the reason that didn't work really quickly is because once again I forgot to put a forever block in. Okay, now let's have a go. Now you'll see that as my mouse moves up and down, I'm not really pressing down at all, but it just moves up and down with my mouse, which is pretty cool actually. So now we've done it so that instead of you having to drag it up and down, you can just move your mouse up and down quickly. So remember, you're setting the Y, and instead of giving it an exact number, you're going to go to sensing, and you're going to find that you're going to set it to the mouse Y. If you did it mouse X, then it would be moving across sideways, not up and down. So you could create another character for the other side. with your other character that you're making for the other side, like this. You're going to call this computer paddle. Okay. And going to make it about 50. That looks a bit smaller. Let's try this. Okay. Drag those two down. I'm going to drag this coding here. Okay, so now both of them have got the same coding. So if I press play, they would both move at the same time. Now I'm going to stop that because we don't actually want, we want it all the way over here. And just for now, it looks like both characters are actually being played by you. But that's okay for now. We're going to leave that as it is. I think it's so far it's a pretty cool game. So let's figure out how we're going to make this ball bounce off my paddles. Now, firstly, that ball should not be going straight. Let's make that ball go in a direction like that. That's a bit better. Cool. I like that. All right, and let's figure out what's going to happen next. We're going to figure out how to make this ball bounce off my paddle. So let's go into a if, I think it's a forever block and an if block. Forever and if. And now if you know, remember from our last video, it's in sensing. If I'm touching, so if the sprite's touching, I don't know why it didn't get called. I was hoping it would actually change the name of the costume to player paddle, but it's still called sprite 2 down the bottom. I'm just going to have to remember that for now. Okay, so if I'm touching my one, which is sprite 2, I want it to, see, the thing is, you think if on edge bounce makes sense, but it actually isn't the right one. We basically just want it to turn around and go backwards. So when the ball comes here, we want it to go completely that way. So that means it turns around. If you're doing it here, it'll go back up. So you're turning around backwards, which is 180 degrees. So when you go to the motion one, the turn, if you put turn 180 degrees, let's have a look if this works. Okay, here we go. Ready? There we go. Now you can see, we'll go through why it's pretty boring at the moment because it seems like it's doing the exact same angles, and we'll go through how to make that harder. But just for now, that works. Now you might find that some of them become a bit jarring and it will look like it jars a little bit. What you might find then you have to do is you have to turn it and then move it 2 steps, because sometimes what will happen is it get caught on the block. The ball will get caught here and it will kind of look like it just wiggles around a bit. So if you do it and then you bounce off and then move 2 steps straight away, it kind of gets it off the block. So make sure that if you're touching the sprite, you do turning 180 degrees, which basically means to turn the exact opposite way and to then move 2 steps away. We're now got to make it move off this one as well. Now, instead of going through and doing a whole bunch of different things, we could actually just, in the same coding, do it for the other one as well. So this one, which is the OR block, we could say if it's touching, if we drag that out, if it's touching sprite 2 or if it's touching sprite 3. That means instead of making a whole bunch of different, because we're trying to encoding to try to use as least amount of blocks as possible for it to work. So now hopefully bounces here, and hopefully now it bounces off both of those ones. Now, like I said before, we are going to make it harder as we go along because we're going to try to make it so that the other controller is not played by you. Okay, let's start again. I think it should be a bit more random, this ball. Maybe the ball should go like that. Okay, let's try that. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, like I said, it's going to get harder as we go, but now we have to try to control this one over here. How, at the moment, it's saying when I click the game, it wants to set the mouse to Y, so I'm controlling it, but I don't want to control it. So instead of setting the mouse to Y, what we're going to do is use a block that I had never heard of, which doesn't make any sense why it works, but we're going to try it. This says the backdrop of the stage, which doesn't mean anything. You just need to know which block it is, because then once you do it, you'll be able to figure out which one it is. So instead of saying stage, we're going to say we basically want our sprite over here to move at the same weighs the ball at the moment. So we want our sprite 3, which should be called paddle 2, to move the same as the ball. So the ball is sprite 1, and we want it to move in the Y position, which basically means wherever the ball goes, up and down, we want our paddle to go the same way. All right, so then let's watch this now. Okay, so I'm not controlling it. Why did that not work? Can anyone tell me? Because I didn't actually put it inside. All right, let's try now. Okay, so now you have this game where I'm not playing with the computer now. It's playing for me. Wherever I hit the ball, it's moving with it. It's pretty cool. So now you've pretty much made your first game of Pong. Now I understand there are huge problems with this game because you can't beat the computer because the computer's going wherever the ball goes. But that's not the important part. We're going to fix that up as we go. We're going to end this lesson here. So let's quickly go back at what we've done so far. We've created our ball, okay, and we've set it to the middle of the middle of the game. Then we've made it move for 7 steps and bounce off the edge. With my paddles, what we have done with those ones is the my player paddle. We've done it so that a forever is wherever the mouse goes up and down. That's where this block's going to go. But with sprite 3, we've done it so that the Y position is going, so that this ball is going to be wherever the ball goes, the paddle goes. So if the paddle goes up, if the ball goes up, the paddle goes up. And then what we've done with the other part is that we've gone to the ball and we've basically said if the ball touches this one or this one, it's going to turn around and come back, and then it's going to happen forever. That game is not finished yet, but I think it's a really cool start, and I think you can see some really cool things you could actually do with this as we go ahead. So I hope you've learned something from this lesson, and I look forward to finishing up the game in the next one. Thank you.